The next step in our crosscut saw vise is to put a piece of threaded rod, all thread, in there, and then a retaining bolt. This was tricky. Hopefully the other one will go a little bit better. I got a little bit offset, but what's so difficult about it is you have to bore this in here. This threaded rod comes into probably about an inch or so beyond this retainer here, and then hit all these things. You know, it's like trying to hit a bullet with a bullet there. I mean, that may be a bit of an exaggeration, but difficult nonetheless. So the reason for this is why? Well, as you tighten this up, we'll have a little handle on there. We'll tighten this up because we need this to be adjustable. If we don't have this retained, the nut will simply just pull the threaded rod out. It won't be any good. So what we need to do is we need to retain it in there. So this threaded rod has a small hole drilled in it. This bolt goes through it, legs on both sides, and that way prevent it from coming out. So we'll go through the procedure step by step. So here's the threaded rod that I'm using. This is 5/8. So what we need to do is we need to drill a hole in the center of this. Here's the difficult part, getting this in as straight as possible. Now, to find center of a beam like this, you crisscross it, crisscross the corners, and that way you can find the exact center. So I'm going to try my best here to drill a straight hole. So now we need to drill a hole in our all thread. Here's a little bolt that we'll use for our keeper. If you have a drill press and you need to drill round stock, a little tool that you can make yourself that is really handy is a little piece of angle iron here, 4 pieces that are welded together. It's got that V in it, and what it does is it holds the stock, round stock, from wobbling around on you. Now this is the tricky part. I try to line up this all thread. I've got the tape here to mark off all my depths. I know exactly where it's going to be. And then I take a pencil and draw this in here, and hopefully when I drill through here, I'll shoot right through that hole. So with my pilot hole drilled all the way through, these are the washers that I'm going to use inside for the bolt, these big heavy washers I got from my granddad's bolt bin. That pilot hole I chose to drill the same size as this hole saw, so I could use this as a guide. And I'll use this because I'll need to countersink those washers and bolts because I need a flat surface here for the saw. Now we can chip this out of here. Here's where the chickens come home to roost. See if we have mad skills or not. So as you can see here, we've got to intersect this hole here with this one. We've got this drilled in there, so when we start this, make sure that that is pointing upright. We can still move this a little bit. As a note, when you're pounding on threaded rod or bolts like that, especially if you're going to use a non-plastic hammer, make sure you put a nut on it. It'll mar the ends and it'll give you all kinds of trouble. So we know when we did this layout, this tape came flush all the way into the hole. So we'll just keep going. Now we'll see if we had success here. I think we got it perfect. I can see daylight all the way through there. So what I'm using here, I've got these just some random things. These are kind of cool, aren't they? End nut there, from my granddad's bolt bin, and some bolts. Money. So I've got the bolt pounded all the way through, and I'm going to take this little piece of tape there and measure where to cut this off. We don't want this sticking out here and catching on things. We want it flush behind the face of this timber. See now why we had to put these in there? Now when we tighten this up, this will have a handle on it, it won't pull this all thread out. This cross piece here, this pin, will prevent that from going anywhere. And now we've got these both flush, So when our crosscut saw sits on here and we put our little stays, it won't interfere and it's not in the way. So turned out good. Turned out better than the other side, but so all the way it is. So the way it is, you know. Next ones will always be better. Something I'm not super stoked about. If you check, I didn't drill these in properly. See how they're angling up? You can see some daylight there. This is one of those defining moments where you can say, good enough for government work, or you can put in a little extra effort and do it correctly. This is going to bind up and it's going to twist poorly for the rest of its life if this isn't addressed right now. So I've got a big washer here I'm going to put on there to kind of protect this. If I try to pound on this, it's going to break that wood out. Guarantee it. It's a big chunk of metal. So I need to put some heat on it, but I don't want to catch this on fire and burn and mar that all up. So I'll put this washer on there and carefully heat this until I can bring this down. Both sides are almost exactly the same out. I just have a tendency of drilling down when I drill. At least I'm consistent with my mistake.